Good morning, everyone, and I'm really looking forward to being part of the inaugural fireside chat on women leadership in healthcare. So we have two fantastic panelists here this morning, very well versed in women's leadership from their vast experience of being leaders in our field, as well as supporting and encouraging others. So we have Dr. Joyann Kroser and Dr. Bettina Pfliederer. All right, so we have our process this morning is we've been given 5 questions to our panelists, so they've had time to think about them and prepare their answers. And what I'll do is ask each of them the questions. And so let me begin with the first question for Dr. Pfliederer first. What for you are 3 important qualities of a medical leader in healthcare?
Would you like me to start?
Dr. Pfliederer? Yeah, thank you.
Well, for me are the 3 most important qualities among many, and I think we have heard this wonderful talk already, are persistence, not giving up.
We can't hear. Can you guys pass that around, like take it off the stand?
For you, yeah.
Okay. So for me, the 3 most important qualities among many, and we heard this very great talk just now, is persistence, not to give up, continue even if you get resistance on your way. The next one is ability to motivate others. It makes no sense if you have good ideas and nobody is motivated and want to follow you. So you have to convince others that what you are passionate about is really of importance and that they follow you. And last but not least, that you have really a passion for your cause. If you are not passionate about what you are doing and what you feel about issues, nobody would follow you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Dr. Kroser.
Well, I want to thank Eliza for inviting me here, and it's really a moving experience to be part of this great group of women. I guess many of you know my mother, Lila Stein Kroser, is a former president of this organization, Medical Men's International, and I so wish that she were here to give you this talk today. She would be 85 if she were here today. But I've kind of taken in a lot of what she taught me to try and prepare my remarks today. And I love Dr. Jenkins' talk. It was a great segue into what I really feel is a legacy of leadership. And so that's what I think, when I think about qualities of a leader, and I reflect on being a great collaborative leader and being an authentic leader. So I think for myself, areas of qualities are patience and self-discipline. It's really important to wait out that long journey, get your ego out of it, be very self-disciplined, and also to have a capacity for self-reflection and self-awareness. And this was kind of mentioned in our previous talk as well. It's so important to know yourself as you motivate others. And then lastly, another quality I feel that I've valued is a tolerance for uncertainty. Because unfortunately, life doesn't always work out like we want it to. And it's important to kind of be able to be resilient and accept those type of uncertainties. So those are the areas and the qualities that I feel in being an authentic collaborative leader, especially in healthcare.
Well, thank you both. Can you hear me at the back? Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so our second question for our panelists, challenges are often discussed, but for you, what has been the biggest reward of being a medical leader in healthcare? And this time, Dr. Kroser, would you like to answer first?
Sure, thanks for the question. I thought about this as well, and one of the major things in my role as leaders, and mainly in organized medicine, both at a county and a state level, in both a smaller county medical society as well as a large urban society, county medical society in Philadelphia, has been helping others achieve our shared goals. So one thing that I really feel that has been a benefit and a reward to me from being a leader, taking on leadership roles, is helping others along and in getting us to achieve goals together. It's also been wonderful to feel involved and networked. That was another thing that was brought out in our previous talk, that it's important to surround yourself with others that are going to be able to take on what you've done and to support you also in what you do. So in taking on leadership roles, I've met a lot of great people. And in turn, I've been able to help other people. I've been able to introduce some people. It might not always be my issue, but I've been able to help delegate or get people together who can then work on a really big project that's not necessarily my project or my passion. So that kind of being a mentor and kind of networking has been something that's been very rewarding for me, both in organized medicine as well as in gastroenterology. And again, in gastroenterology, I feel like I've been able to be a role model, and that's been very rewarding. When I started in my specialty, we're maybe like 10% of the specialty. We're a little bit higher now, but now it's so encouraging to see so many other women coming into GI, and I know you're going to have a couple of great speakers coming up in your next panel as well.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Pfliederer?
Well, for me, it was most rewarding that I could actually walk the talk. Because what bothered me the most was that I had many ideas and was never able to bring them into life. And that's when I was able to really advance, was when I accepted to take the lead on things, which was not that easy because I was not trained to take leadership. I'm from a very tiny, small rural village in Germany, and the role of women was to be home and take care of kids, and when you study, be really not visible. And then taking on leadership and really motivate and do things which you care about and move forward was something I had to change my own perception of myself as a woman. And this, I think, was very rewarding that I was able to do and serve as a role model for young women in Germany and globally. So I tell them, see, you can do it. It's important that you lead, that you walk the talk, that you make change. For instance, a focus of our work as medical women, as well as my work at home, is sex and gender medicine. And I've been able to achieve quite a change just by going out there and show my vision of how things should be done and lead. And this is very rewarding, to make a change for young women and medical students as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you both. That's very inspiring for all of us here to help others achieve their goals and to walk the talk. So thank you. Thank you. Next question then. And what do you think is the most challenging issue for women in medicine today? And I hope everyone gives thought themselves to that question and maybe how they would answer it, or maybe, find a time today to chat to others at the meeting about this question. Dr. first.
Well, for me, the most challenging issue is that we grow actually numbers, and we will outgrow male colleagues. And you would think, well, that's great. We are growing in numbers. Why would I phrase this to be as a challenge? But actually, at least in Germany, and I've seen this in many countries, I've spoken to our colleagues, is that we medical women are perceived as threat. Because when we increase in numbers, when we increase in opportunities, when we are more important, when we're getting hopefully more faculty positions, some people feel threatened. And because we are often working full time, headlines appearing in newspapers saying, well, there are feminization medicine, there is a wave, a flood of women coming into medicine, and health care of patients will be in danger. We are perceived as a threat. And I think that is really a challenge. We are considered being a threat, and our patients start getting worried. They think, oh my God, we are going to have many more physicians which are women. Our treatment will suffer. Will I not get the right care? And I think that's something we really have to work on, that we as female physicians are not considered being a threat, but an asset. And that's important because we have a different way of how we treat our patients, and like communication is very important. So this must be transported and communicated to our patients and to the public, and I think that's really a challenge.
Okay, the challenge to get our voice out and increase the number of women in leadership. Okay, Dr. Kroser.
Yes, I'd like to take up on that and say, at least what I've found is that while we have made great strides in the numbers of women, certainly in medical school and in medicine and in various specialties. It's not like the old days when we were in the minority and there was a lot more bullying that had to be dealt with, like my mom had to deal with when she was going and graduating in the 50s. But what I feel what we're challenging now is salary inequity. There is a gender gap in the pay scale of women physicians. We're not always well-versed as we could be in our negotiating skills. I think we have to we need to learn better about how we can kind of get paid as much as our male colleagues for the same work that we do. And to that end, while there are many women that are on faculty, we still lack leaders at the very top of academia in the key roles. And so breaking that true final glass ceiling, I think, is the biggest challenge. Now, how we achieve that is going to be difficult because, for example, things like achieving flexible schedules and achieving work-life balance are always going to be things that challenge us more as women than as men. Not saying that it doesn't challenge our male colleagues, because in fact I think it's more of a generational rather than a gender issue, because younger physicians in general, regardless of gender, want to have better work-life balance. But I think achieving those balances while also getting, closing that pay gap, that gender pay gap, is what I feel are the biggest challenges today.
Okay, thank you both. Those are very important challenges, and we've been discussing those at the Federation of Medical Women in Canada as well. Okay, so our fourth question then. What supports or resources would you have loved to have in your work to date? Okay, Dr. Kroser?
Well, I hope there's some scientists in this room that one day might be able to do cloning, because if I could have had a clone for myself, that would have been a good thing. Because mastering that art of being in two places at the same time, very difficult. But I do feel that in my particular career, I could have been provided better assistance. I think as a junior faculty, you're not really afforded with a lot of resources, and then even as you work up, people expect you now to more do it on your own. And with the advent of electronic medical records, there's so much more pressure on physicians to do things that in the past really weren't things that we had to do, and it's not really capturing our cognitive benefits. So I think having things like a scribe, which is now coming out for electronic health record, would be valuable. But in truth, having a little more support for managing time and delegating smaller tasks would have been helpful to me in my career.
Okay, thank you.
Well, actually, what I really would love to have more would be less talk and more walk of my faculty and dean. Because what they usually say, well, you do sex and gender medicine, which is really great, it's really of importance, and we love that you do teaching. And when I ask for some resources or some support for this important cause, they say, oh, well, I'd love to support you, and you have my support, but we unfortunately have no money at all. So that actually is one of the things I hate the most, to be very honest. I can get really passionate about that. because all the time they tap on my shoulder and say, well, wonderful, done, and you are asset to have at the faculty. But every time I ask for support, they say, well, I have a problem here, we have a problem there, and there are more important things to do. And though this, I really would love to change, that they really stand behind what we are doing. The next thing I would like to have is more female role models in our faculty. At least in my faculty, we are 6 female professors and 140 male professors. So every time, well, Münster is kind of conservative, but every time we discuss things, it's really hard to be heard because you don't have your allies. So and unfortunately, and that leads me to a very important point, women don't unite usually. Even if we 6 would be united and would be a stronger voice, we could achieve things. But most often, even women don't work together. So often you are a single fighter for your cause, and I wished we would change that, and that's why I think those meetings and National Women Association are so of importance to teach our young medical students. You have to work together. Otherwise, you will not achieve anything, because as a lone camper somewhere in the wild, you will make no advances, or it will not work properly. So I think that's why, please move ahead and unite, and don't work each against each other.
Okay. So these are some very valuable suggestions from our experienced leaders here. And I think it's really important for our learners, our medical students and residents to be thinking about these challenges as they start their leadership journey and identify these challenges, perhaps reach out to, and that's a value of a convention like this, to be able to reach out to other leaders and get their suggestions and ideas. So hopefully our leaders here will be available for discussions afterwards about these issues. So we've come to our final question here for this panel, and I'd like to ask both speakers, what two things have you gained or experienced from being a medical leader? And I'll start again with you, Dr. Kroser, if that's okay.
Sure. I was thinking about these answer to your question, and I think confidence is one thing that has really been a benefit for my willingness to get involved in leadership roles, that I've been able to kind of say yes to certain things that I didn't necessarily see. I think I would be able to handle a certain challenge. And so I've gained in confidence, and I think in turn been able to help others, motivate them towards achieving more confidence. In addition, being in a leadership role has really given me the ability to see a lot of different viewpoints. And maybe it's maturity as well, where you can sometimes let go of that thing that you were holding on to so well, to be able to see the other side and really create, effective change through compromise and collaboration. So for me, that's been personally rewarding to kind of have that transformation.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, Dr. Bettina.
Well, I've two experiences I made and learned immensely from. First of all, resilience matters. I'm a little bit impatient, and I'd like to get things done a lot faster, as they often move. And there was one African friend of mine telling me a proverb and saying, well, in my language they say, if you're a caravan in the desert, the caravan only survives in the desert if you are able to get the last camel to move. So every time I get impatient, I think about the last camel and think, well, gee, don't move ahead. Please first get everybody on board and try to understand why are you doing things like you are doing them and why they are of importance. So that means you learn a lot about yourself, and you have to adapt constantly, because you learn how you did things before won't work in a global environment, and it will not work in a leadership role. And what is also important, and I learned for myself, it's very straightforward and necessary not to give up and be resistant. And there's always a way, even if you think you are stuck and there is a barrier and you will never overcome this fence. You will get stuck on top of the fence, not moving back and forth. And I thought, my God, I'm sometimes like this cow, on this picture, just struggling, going up and down. And but I learned in being a leader that, thank God, you're mostly not falling always back, you're falling forward. And this is what counts. Little steps are of importance. And what I gained as experience is cultural diplomacy in medicine. How medicine is perceived differently in various corners of the world, and that is really important. In order to succeed and get like the last camel and everybody on board, you have to understand how they could conceive health and disease and what is important in their environment. And this has been extremely enriching my life, because I can benefit from my daily work, and I love to share this with my students. I say, look here, in this country, if it is done this way, and actually I think it would be nice if we could adopt a little bit of it in our curriculum, in our daily practice with our patients.
Okay, thank you for sharing those experiences. So the confidence, seeing different viewpoints, both very important. The resilience matters, and not to give up, and the importance of cultural diplomacy. Thank you for sharing those experiences with us. So those are the 5 questions that our 2 fantastic panelists prepared answers for us for. And I just want to, at this time, ask each of us up here to just maybe give one leadership pearl that you would like to tell our group here about, something very important that you would like to share. And I'll maybe start off with one for myself to give them a chance to think about what they want to say here. So something that's meaningful. And at a time like this is an opportunity for all of us to sort of think of what matters to you. What are you hearing this weekend? What did you hear from our first speaker that you can take back home with you when the convention ends? So mine is listen hard, listen well. Listening is an art. When people are speaking, they require our undivided attention. So Dr. Kroser, did you have one last final word of wisdom to share with us?
I sort of feel like I'm at the Academy Awards and they're going to pull the thing on me, but I can't just do it for one, but I can speak pretty fast. So
Okay.
I did have just a couple things that I wanted to just leave with you. And some of it segues from what you were just saying. I think it's important to listen more and speak less as a leader. I think consensus is good, but direction and decisiveness will be what creates action. And anyone can identify a problem, but a leader is part of the solution. And then lastly, I would say apologize publicly and gloat privately.
All right, thank you. Dr. Bettina?
For me, I have actually 2 words of wisdom. One is never march alone, work with a team, and you're always as good as your team are. So please find wonderful people around you from various backgrounds and take their input, and then you grow, and everything you do will grow at the same time. And the next pearl of wisdom basically resides with this. Medical women, that's the theme of my triennium, medical women are ambassadors of change. So I think we need to be more heard and be not as silent and raise our voice, and whenever possible, get publicized and make your point so that people really know what we are doing and what good things we are working for. That means we being on the height of things and not behind. Thank you.
Thank you for those inspiring
And
words.
Dr. Johnson.
Thank you.
I wanted to also point out to the audience, at least in my specialty, it's been a banner year for women, that in this past year, all 4 major GI specialty societies are headed by women. It's a first.
Congratulations, that's just wonderful. Thank you. Wonderful. So I'd like to thank both of our fantastic panelists here, and may we give them a round of applause here. Thank you both for sharing your wisdom and experience with us. It's a wonderful occasion when we can meet, gather, and learn from each other, and this chat is no different. So thank you all, and thank you all to the learners who have taken time from your busy schedules to come to the conference and this chat. And thank you all for making this such a fantastic occasion. Thank you.